Lindsay Clancy, a former labor and delivery nurse from Duxbury, Massachusetts, is charged with murdering her 3 young children, Cora, Dawson, and Callan, in January 2023. Prosecutors allege the killings were deliberate and calculated. Her defense acknowledges that she caused the children's deaths, but argues that she was suffering from postpartum psychosis and was not criminally responsible. The central question is, was this intentional murder or a catastrophic break from reality? Lindsay Clancy has pleaded not guilty and is presumed innocent unless proven guilty.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
All right. Counsel.
Thank you. Sorry. It's okay. Good afternoon. Can you tell the jurors your first and last name? Hillary Griffiths. And can you spell your last name for the record? Griffiths. And where do you work?
I work at the Massachusetts State Police Crime Laboratory.
What do you do there?
I am a forensic scientist in the toxicology unit.
How long have you been with the state police?
For 21 years.
And have you spent your entire career in the toxicology unit, or have you worked in other units?
Initially, I worked in the DNA unit and then in the Office of Alcohol Testing, but I have been in the toxicology unit since 2011.
What does the toxicology unit do at the crime lab?
We test biological specimens, primarily blood and urine and some other sample types, for the presence of drugs, alcohol, and some poisons to aid in criminal and legal investigations.
Where does the samples, the blood and urine, come from before it gets to your lab?
They could come from often hospital collections of blood and urine. Occasionally, urine samples can be collected from a defendant at a police station. Also, we receive samples from the medical examiner's office.
So normally it comes through some law enforcement channel, right?
Yes.
And sometimes through the medical examiner's office.
Yes.
You don't have any direct involvement in the collection of the blood or urine from an individual, correct?
Correct.
You're just looking at the blood itself?
Yes.
Or the urine?
Yes.
Okay, so what kinds of testing is done in the toxicology unit? You mentioned alcohol and drugs and poison, so how does the toxicology unit handle those things?
We initially screen samples following a particular testing strategy depending on case type. And we will screen samples and then confirm whatever is found positive in the screening using a second methodology or repeating the initial methodology using a variety of different techniques.
And when a sample comes to your unit, can you explain to us how the personnel in that unit divides up the work?
Yes. Our samples are tested in a batch system. So each analyst is assigned a particular task for the month. And then any case that requires that test during that month is performed by that individual. So often cases could need anywhere from 3 to 10 different tests to be done. And so different individuals will conduct each different test.
And for any given case or any different lab number, is there an analyst that's kind of assigned at the end of it all to digest or analyze all of the data?
Yes. When all of the testing is completed for a case, an analyst takes responsibility for that case, and they will review all of the raw data that's generated by the different analysts involved. They'll review the case specific information, like the police report, the documentation on the evidence itself. They'll assess the case as a whole, and they'll generate a report containing their findings.
And do you receive some sort of specialized training to be part of the toxicology unit?
Yes.
And what training do you receive?
When I began working in the toxicology unit, I participated in approximately a year-long training program where I conducted literature reviews, attended lectures, to learn the theory behind the testing and the testing process itself, as well as the interpretation of the results. And then I practiced each of the techniques on mock cases, and then took tests to ensure that I understood the logic and the background behind the testing. I understood the interpretation, and I was able to test these mock cases and get the correct results prior to performing those methods on casework samples.
And you described to us that the work is done in a batch flow process so that you could be doing different things at various points. Are you trained to do each part of the process?
Yes.
And so ultimately you could interpret, but you don't always interpret with every single case that you work on.
Correct.
Now, in the toxicology unit, you mentioned that there are screening tests and there are confirmatory tests, and those are usually assigned differently in this batch process, correct?
They can be, yes.
What are generally the screen tests that are done when a case comes into the toxicology unit?
For the most part, all cases receive an ELISA screen, which is a very quick color screening test that looks for 8 different types of drugs. It's very sensitive but not very specific, so it basically says this type of drug might be present. Now go do follow-up testing to find out specifically what's present. They also all receive a general unknown screen, which looks for several hundred different prescription drugs, over-the-counter drugs, and drugs of abuse. Then depending on the case type, they can be screened for alcohol, and they can be screened, specific screening tests for GHB can be performed if the case type warrants that.
GHB, alcohol, I mean, really?
Overall, go ahead.
You can continue.
And then depending on what is present from those screening tests, that will guide the follow-up testing.
And with the follow-up testing, that's the process of going through that secondary confirmatory testing, right?
Correct.
And in some instances with the screens, are you looking to get any sort of specific information about a particular drug or substance that might be present, or is it just a determination of whether something is detected or not detected?
It depends on the test itself and the sample. The general unknown screen only tells us if a substance is detected or not detected. The general unknown screen can be run as both a screening test and a confirmatory test. With other tests, the screening test would just be qualitative, and we would determine if a substance is present or not, such as when we test urine, we can only determine or report out if a substance is present or not. With some tests, when testing blood, we can determine a concentration and know how much of the drug is present.
And are there limitations at your lab as far as determining concentration of certain types of drugs in blood?
Yes.
And so what happens when your lab might have screened or detected a substance but doesn't have the ability to give a concentration? What do you do with that?
We can, if the substance is confirmed, so if we've tested it twice and verified that it's definitely present, we can report it out as just detected, as opposed to giving the concentration.
Do you often work with other independent outside laboratories to do additional testing that you can't as far as determining concentrations or levels?
Yes, if it's important for the case to know a concentration of a substance that we can't quantify ourselves, we can send it to a different laboratory that can perform that testing.
I'm going to draw your attention to a laboratory number 23-01723. Do you recall doing work on that particular lab number?
Yes.
Do you recall what your role was in that batch process for the lab number?
Yes. I performed the confirmation method for benzodiazepines on the urine sample and the quantitation method for benzodiazepines on the blood sample.
And in order to do, can you tell us a little bit about the benzodiazepine? What did you do as far as that particular test?
When testing both the blood and the urine, for the most part, the same method is used. We use a solid phase extraction method to separate the drugs from the rest of the biological material. Biological materials can have things like lipids and steroids and blood cells and bacteria and other things that can interfere with our testing. So we use this solid phase extraction method to separate the drugs and concentrate them to be able to run on our instrument. And then we run them on a LC-MS, which is a liquid chromatograph mass spectrometer that can separate the different drugs and identify specifically which one is present and how much is there. When we're testing blood samples, we can report out that value for how much is present. When testing urine samples by this method, although the method itself can determine how much is present, we don't report that out because concentrations in urine aren't really meaningful. They don't reflect any concentration that had previously been in the blood. They mostly just reflect how much of the drug was present in the urine. So we don't report that. There is an additional step that's needed when testing urine at the beginning of the method, but otherwise both the blood and the urine are tested in the same manner using the solid phase extraction and the LCM-SMS.
And in this case, with this laboratory number, the toxicology unit was in fact provided with 6 vials of blood and 1 vial of urine, correct?
There were 4 vials of blood and then 2 vials of serum plasma, which had started out as blood but were serum by the time we received them, and then 1 tube of urine.
Okay. And as far as the urine goes, in your role in this batch process, you conducted that benzodiazepine screen, correct?
Yes.
And it was positive?
Yes.
And then the further testing, were you able to detect any particular benzodiazepines in the urine?
I didn't conduct the initial benzodiazepine screen through the ELISA method, which was positive. Based on that positive result, I ran the confirmation method on the urine, which identified the specific drugs that were present. And that identified in urine nordiazepam, oxazepam, temazepam, and lorazepam.
And based on your training experience when it comes to those substances, if it's detected in either blood or urine, does it mean that there are those 4 separate substances, or could they be derivatives of one particular drug?
Yes. Each of those substances is available as its own drug. You can get prescriptions for them. You can purchase them. However, diazepam, that's more commonly used than nordiazepam, oxazepam, and temazepam, breaks down into those other 3 substances. So often when we detect nordiazepam, oxazepam, and temazepam, they actually are present in the body because diazepam or another benzodiazepine was initially taken and it broke down to those 3.
But as far as your testing is, when it comes to urine, you can't determine or quantify what it was or if it was one drug or multiple.
Correct.
Now, in this particular case, you indicated that there was also further testing done on the blood, correct?
Yes.
And was it as well for the benzodiazepines?
Yes.
And that was just because that was your role in the batch testing for this case?
Yes.
What were the results in the testing of the benzodiazepines in the blood?
The blood contained 8.8 nanograms per milliliter of diazepam and 20 nanograms per milliliter of nordiazepam and 4.8 nanograms per mil of oxazepam and 1.9 nanograms per mil of temazepam and 61 nanograms per mil of lorazepam.
And in your role in this testing process, you're just running the equipment, running the tests, and getting the data, correct?
There is some analysis of the data. I have to ensure that the controls performed appropriately, that the instrument was running properly, and make a decision based on the instrument data, what I consider to be positive or not. But then it's handed off to another analyst who generates the final report.
And in this case, were all the controls appropriate, all the equipment running effectively, and everything done according to the policies and procedures of the lab?
Ultimately, all of the relevant controls that were associated with the samples performed appropriately.
And what did you do with the information or the data that you received as a result of these tests? What did you do with it?
I put it together in a batch file that contained all the data for my analysis. It contained the case data for the samples that were run on that day, as well as all the control data that was run simultaneously, and other traceability type info, and gave it to another analyst who reviewed it to ensure that laboratory policies and procedures were followed, that the controls performed appropriately in order to report the results, and that the results were scientifically accurate. And then after that analyst agreed with my findings, the data was put into the individual case files.
And in this case, the reporting analyst for the entire lab number of 23-01723 was in fact somebody by the name of Nicholas Roberts, correct?
Yes.
And you're aware that there were other forensic scientists who did other testing for other types of drugs in the same test, but it wasn't part of your role or your batch?
Correct.
Thank you.
Mr. Reddington.
So the toxicology report you're familiar with was dated February 24th of 2023. Is that correct?
Do you have it in front of you?
I can refer to it.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. And you can keep it right there and look at it. And then it makes reference to your lab number, and then it talks about the specimens that you've indicated, which would be the toxicology blood times 4, serum plasma, you noted serum plasma, and then urine, right?
Yes.
And when you say serum plasma, what is that? Is that just a breakdown of the blood, or is it that was actual plasma that was submitted? How did that come about as opposed to the actual blood in items number 1, 2, and 3?
We received samples that were taken for medical reasons, and the sample that was initially drawn would have been blood, but the hospital would have separated the blood cells from the liquid portion of the sample prior to it being submitted to our lab. So when I received it, it was serum plasma, but it would have initially been blood.
Okay. And likewise with the urine, correct?
Yes.
And you received all of these items in indicating light blue top tube, potassium oxalate, sodium fluoride. That would just so prevent coagulation, right?
Yes.
And then looking down further, it says on the toxicology blood, you make reference to, as you indicated, the 8.8 diazepam, the nordiazepam, the oxazepam, temazepam, lorazepam, and you're putting down, would that be nanograms per milliliters, ng/ml?
Yes.
Okay. And it's kind of hard to follow through with that, so I'm going to approach you. This is a copy of the blood toxicology routine, right? Sure, of course.
Yes.
Okay. And this is the tox report for Lindsay?
Yes.
And it's making reference to the data, correct?
Yes.
I'd offer this.
The objection? That may be admitted.
Now, yes. You then make reference to organic bases and neutrals, right?
Yes.
Can you tell me what is an organic base and a neutral? What does that mean?
That refers to, so the line above that, the organic acids and neutrals and the organic bases and neutrals refer to the results from the general unknown screen, which is another screen that was performed by a different analyst.
Okay. Do you know who the analyst was?
Lisa Yell.
And would that be with the Department of the Massachusetts State Police?
Yes.
Okay. And as it relates to the tox report, it also notes that, what is an organic base and a neutral? What does that mean, though? I just don't know.
This testing procedure separates the drugs present in the sample into drugs that are more basic in nature and drugs that are more acidic in nature. This test looks for several hundred types of drugs, and so in order to customize the extraction method to target certain drugs, the sample is divided into 2 fractions.
So in other words, it gives you a broader spectrum, if you will, of the drugs that would be in the person's sample of their blood, right?
Yes.
And that detected mirtazapine, right?
Yes.
Lamotrigine, right?
Yes.
Probably mispronouncing this. Quetiapine? Quetiapine. And quetiapine metabolite, right?
Yes.
As well as trazodone, right?
Correct.
And just tell me, what is a metabolite? What does that mean, quetiapine metabolite?
When we consume drugs, our body will break down the drug often into another molecule before it's being excreted. And sometimes our testing can detect these breakdown molecules as well. So this test detected both quetiapine as well as its breakdown product.
So there was that would indicate that there was quetiapine that was in the blood as well as a quetiapine metabolite or a breakdown over a passage of time.
Yes.
Also, just you guys check for everything. There's no alcohol detected, right?
Correct.
No amphetamines detected, right?
Correct.
There was a benzo screen that was positive, which we've already talked about, correct?
Yes.
Buprenorphine screen, none detected, right?
Yes.
Cocaine and fentanyl, none, right?
Yes.
Methamphetamines, none, correct?
Yes.
Opiates, none.
Yes.
Cannabinoids, that'd be weed, right? None.
It's the active molecule in there.
Okay. Diazepam, none.
Yes.
Nordiazepam detected.
Correct.
Oxazepam detected.
Yes.
Teramazepam detected.
Yes.
Lorazepam detected, right?
Yes.
And then finally it says organic acids and neutrals, none detected, right?
Yes.
And then you talk about, and that would be the acids. Then you talk about the actual organic bases, and it lists all of the other items that we just went through. Trazodone metabolite, for example. So you have the trazodone plus the breakdown of the metabolite. You have the mirtazapine as well as mirtazapine metabolite, right?
Correct.
Lamotrigine, quietapine, and the quietapine metabolite, right?
Correct.
Now, you would also, in your direct examination, made reference to another lab that you all work with, apparently, or that you've had occasion to work with, right?
Occasionally, we have sent samples to another lab.
Okay. Would that be NMS Labs located in Horsham, Horsham, Pennsylvania?
NMS Labs, I don't recall the location of the lab.
Okay, but you know NMS Labs.
Yes.
And that's pretty well known, right?
Yes.
You guys, right? And was a sample of Lindsay's blood sent to that place as well?
Yes.
And were there results for that as a result of the examination?
I believe so.
Okay. I'm going to approach you with toxicology report.
Go to sidebar.
Sure. Counsel, please stand by. All right. Yeah, redirect. Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Let me step down.
Thank you.
Yeah, come on.
The Commonwealth would call Lisa Yell.